Greetings to all class 9 students. In our last video, what we have learned was the seamstress and her feverish son were helped by the happy prince, who was assisted by the small bird with the precious ruby that adorned the happy prince's sword. Right? So this is where we have left. I am here on page number 30. That is because you have done a good action, said the prince. And the little swallow began to think, and then fell asleep. Thinking always made him sleepy. Now, the bird also feels the warmth of compassion and the love that he has shown to someone who was in need, and that was making him happy. So he fell asleep. When day broke, he flew down to the river and had a bath. Tonight I go to Egypt, said the swallow. And he was in high spirits at the prospect. Right, now finally he decided that it's time for me to leave the happy prince. He visited all the monuments and sat a long time on the top of the church steeple. The steeple is the church tower, the top part of the church. When the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. Now see, he is a little reluctant, little hesitant. Before he leaves, he wants to bid a final goodbye to the happy prince. So he waited till night, finished his routine in the morning time, rested, went all over the city, checked things out, and then he went to the happy prince during the night. And he asked for something. Have you any commissions for Egypt? He cried. I am just starting. That means I am about to set my journey now. Yes, I am going to resume my journey back to Egypt where my friends are. If you have any instructions, commissions here refer to any instructions, any assignment, anything that you have to say. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Will you stay with me one night longer? I am waited for in Egypt, answered the swallow. The bird gives the same reason, that he cannot because he has to meet with his friends. Swallow, little swallow, said the prince, far away across the city, I see a young man in a garret. A garret is a sort of, an attic, a room in the top floor, the loft. He's leaning over a desk covered with papers, and in the glass by his side there is a bunch of withered violets. Violets refers to the flowers. His hair is brown and crisp. It shows that he has not tidied his hair. And his lips are as red as pomegranate. And he has large and dreamy eyes. He is trying to finish a play for the director of the theatre, but he is too cold to write any more. There is no fire in the grate. Grate, there is the fire station in the house. The furnace sort of fire station. And hunger has made him faint. It shows, it seems, the man who is to finish his play, what he had to write for the director of the theatre, he is unable to write anything. He is unable to finish his drama because he is hungry, he is tired, and there is no fire that can keep him warm in this freezing cold. I will wait with you one night longer, said the swallow, who really had a good heart. He asked if he should take another ruby to the young playwright. Playwright is the drama writer. Alas, I have no ruby now, said the prince. My eyes are all that I have left. They are made of rare sapphires, which were brought out of India 1,000 years ago. All right. So finally, there was only one precious ruby which was attached to his sword hilt, which has already been utilized once to help the seamstress. And now, what else can the happy prince donate for the good cause. So he thinks of those beautiful sapphires which were taken once from India all the way. Years ago, he ordered the swallow to pluck one of them and take it to the playwright. He will sell it to the jeweler and buy firewood for himself. And finally, he will be able to finish his play, he said. So these were the instructions and the commissions for the little bird. Dear prince, said the swallow, I cannot do that. And he began to weep. Well, taking the sapphires off, plucking them off the prince's body, that means he will be partially sight impaired. The statue will no longer be able to see things properly from the highest pedestal that it was installed on. So he was so upset about it and he started crying. What will I do? I don't want to do that, it seems. Swallow, little swallow, do as I command you. So again instruction comes from him. Kindly do what you are asked to. So the swallow plucked out the prince's eye and flew away to the young man's garret. Straight away, it was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted. Darted means rushed, entered, and came into his room. The young man had his head buried in his hands, so he did not hear the flutter, that is the flapping of the bird's wings. And when he looked up, he found the beautiful sapphire lying on the withered violets. Right? Okay. Like the seamstress finally must have found a ruby lying next to the thimble that she was using. Similarly, the playwright also found a sapphire lying next to the withered violets. Both the tasks were accomplished by this little bird, instructed by the happy prince. I am beginning to be appreciated, he cried. That means, he thought, perhaps someone has sent it for me, because they knew that I am writing a drama for the director of the theatre, and somebody really had been thankful for it. And they knew that I was suffering and they sent this sapphire for me. This is from some great admirer of mine. Now I can finish my play. And he looked quite happy. The next day, the swallow flew down to the harbor. Harbor is the port, the station of the, where all the big vessels and the ships are posted. Right. He sat on the mast of the large vessel and watched the sailors working. I am going to Egypt, cried the swallow. But nobody minded, and when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. You see, this line, I'm going to Egypt and nobody minded, it shows that those people who really cause good to others, they are never bothered by people. What sort of people are bothered by others and can become the attention? Those who are always, those who always come up with great pomp and show their false vanity. Think of those, wearing of embroidered gowns for the ball of the court, and those who think that they should look presentable, and not those who actually help the sufferers. You see, they are never admired, but only those who, are so-called sophisticated people, they are admired according to the bird. So this line means this here, this statement given by the swallow. I have come to bid you goodbye, he cried. Again, now that he has to resume his journey back to Egypt. Swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me one night longer? Perhaps one more task that the prince has to give to the bird. It is winter, answered the swallow, and the snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and the crocodiles lie in the mud and look lazily about them. You see, he says, soon it is going to be freezing cold here in this place, the happy prince. And I have to resume my journey, for it is still spring there. It is still summers there. Everyone All of my friends are enjoying there and I have to go and meet with them. So I have come to bid you the last goodbye. However, the prince is making one more request to the little bird. Look, in the square below, said the happy prince, there stands a little match girl. She has let her matches fall in the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring home some money at least. And she is crying. She has no shoes or stockings, and her little head is bare. Pluck out my other eye and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. Who can think so much for those who are suffering, those who are in pain? He was the happy prince and always lived a happy life in the place where sorrow was not allowed to enter. However, now that he is no more, his laden heart is feeling pain. He is not able to see someone in suffering, so he does not mind to be completely sight impaired, losing the other sapphire beautiful eye which was adorned on his body. So he is proposing the bird to take it, go and give it to that match girl, the small girl who's left crying for the fear of father's beatings. I will stay with you one night longer, said the swallow, but I cannot pluck out your eye. You would be quite blind then. Right, we refer blind as completely sight impaired, the one who cannot see anything, the one who cannot see this beautiful world made by Almighty God. Swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So he plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. He swooped past the match girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. Swooped, that means he moved swiftly, rapidly. He could wait no more. He plucked the other sapphire and he rushed to that small crying girl and handed the sapphire over. What a lovely bit of glass, cried the little girl. And she ran home laughing. Her crying changed into laughing. No more fear of father's beatings. Then the swallow came back to the prince. You are blind now, he said, so I will stay with you always. Now the little bird is completely overwhelmed, taken by the emotions over. He refuses to resume his journey to Egypt because the happy prince will need 24/7 help, for he has become a complete sight-impaired prince. No, I will stay with you always. No, no, little swallow, said the poor prince, you must go away to Egypt. However, the prince is aware of the emergency, the need of the birds resuming his journey. So he's asking him, you should leave me. However, the bird refused and he slept at the prince's feet. You see, he realized that the prince, after losing everything, most of the things from his body, now is in need of assistance and he is not in condition to leave him alone. See, good people always meet good people. This is the example. For the prince being good met with another good little fellow. Right. All the next day he sat on the prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in the strange lands. So they do talk together always. Dear little swallow, said the prince, you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and women. Please underline this. Marvelous here refers to something that causes great wonder, great surprise. And what can really cause the great wonder is nothing but people's suffering, according to the happy prince. He says, whatever you have seen on this strange earth is not a thing of wonder. The thing that causes the wonder is the pain and the suffering of others. There is no mystery so great as misery. Another underline here. The great mystery is the misery, the grief, the sadness. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there. See, after losing most of the things from his body, the happy prince is still not content. He still wants to offer a lot of help and assistance to all the town people who were suffering and were not being helped by the ministers of his kingdom. So, what is he doing? He sends the little bird away. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. Under the archway, you see, archway is the curved structure, a shape of an arc of a bridge. Two little boys were lying in each other's arms to try to keep themselves warm. How hungry we are, they said. You must not light here, shouted a watchman, and they ventured out into the rain. This description is very emotional description about what the swallow has seen in the kingdom of the happy prince. He saw those who were rich. They were very nicely comforting themselves in their houses, and those who were underprivileged, not so fortunate to have the shelter and the food and the woolly to keep themselves warm in this freezing cold, they were left on the roads. They were children with their face whitened because of cold. They were hungry, they were starving, they were just, trying to embrace each other with their arms so that they can keep themselves warm. But that was also, it was not very good for a watchman, because that sort of posture was not good for those sophisticated people, so-called one. So what did he say? He asked these two small children to go away somewhere where they cannot be seen by this so-called people. So-called caring people. Well, let me put it like this. Right. So this was the spectacle seen by the little bird, and he exactly narrated the same to the prince. Then he flew back and told the prince what he had seen. That means, you see, what this paragraph shows is, whenever we have something, we must afford to give something. You remember what you have learned in the legend of Northland. When you are in the position to give something, you must, because it is your duty. You should not think that everything belongs to you. If God has given you something, you must be able to share it with others. Only then your happiness is doubled, and you are acknowledged, and you are never forgotten in the society. So this is a way to help, which these people who were nicely comforting themselves before the fire station in their houses should have come forward and help others, other town people in the happy prince's kingdom, which they were not. So the same news was brought to the happy prince, which made him again unhappy. Every time I am speaking this, because I want to tell you that the happy prince looked happy, but he was not happy. Because when he saw his people in pain and suffering, he was ready to give away anything that he could. I am covered with fine gold, said the prince. You must take it off, leaf by leaf, and give it to the poor. The living always think that gold can make them happy. You see, it is written, go back to this phrase, leaf by leaf. This is like when small pieces of your skin are taken off your body, the muscles and the pain that you feel. The prince has gone through this pain because he wanted to help. He did not mind to give upon his beautiful, glowing, golden skin also, which was taken so sadly, with a lot of grimace on the face of the little bird, because he did not want to. He also knew what the pain the prince will undergo when he would do this. But he had to, because he was instructed to do so. He forgot all about his friends and the journey to Egypt, and he was all to the service of the happy prince for the good cause. Okay, We will take the chapter ahead in the next video. We keep up to here. I want you to keep the link in your mind. The ruby was helped the seamstress, and then the sapphire helped the match girl, another sapphire to the playwright, and finally the skin. Right? We keep this video here. I'll be meeting you soon in the next video. Please keep reading and keep learning.